today I would like to share a little exhortation on Esther and how her purpose helped to deliver her people. And we'll be reading from Esther 3, chapter 3 and chapter 4. And reading from chapter 3 verse 13, we realize that a decree was sent out by the king. The conspiracy was set up by Haman, which was one of the king's right hand, and he conspired to get rid of the Jews, which was unbeknown of the king. So, and in verse 13, it says, letters were sent out by special messengers to all the king's provinces to destroy and slay and to do away with all Jews, both young and old, children, women, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, Adar, to seize their belongings. And over to chapter 4, verses 1, it says that Mordecai learned all that was done. He rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry. Moving down to verse 4, when Esther's maid and her attendants came and told it to her, the queen was exceedingly grieved and distressed. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai, with orders to take his sackcloth from off him, but he would not receive them. Then chapter 4 verses 7, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him and the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to be destroyed. Also, Mordecai also gave him a copy of the decree to destroy them that was given out in Shushan, that he might show it to Esther, explain it to her, and charge her to go to the king, make supplication to him, and plead with him for the lives of the people. In verse 10, Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a message for Mordecai, saying, all the king's servants and the people of the king's province know that any man, be it man or woman, who shall go into the inner court to the king without being called, shall be put to death. This is but one law of him, except to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come to the king for these 30 days. And they told Mordecai what Esther had said. Then Mordecai told them to return their answer to Esther. Do not flatter yourself that you shall escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance shall arise for the Jews from elsewhere. But you and your father's house will perish. And who knows but that you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this, and for this very occasion. Then Esther told them to give this to Mordecai. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast for me, and neither eat nor drink for these days, for 3 days, night or day. I also and my maid will fast as you do. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. So here we have Esther. She was put between a rock and a hard place, where there was a decision that was critical for her to make. She had the decision whether to go to the king and advocate or supplicate for her brethren, the Jews, and risk her life, or should she not go and risk all the Jews being killed. So you can see that this was a hard decision for Esther. However, before Esther went into the palace, you will realize that God had this orchestrated long before she went into the palace. Esther might not have known that, but it was all a part of God's plan to save the Jews, because the truth be told, God would have known that this would have happened. And so before that, God would set up someone in the palace to advocate for the people, to rescue them from conspiracy or the plans of the enemy. And so Esther was in the palace for this time, this very time. It was a part of her destiny. It was a part of her purpose, even though she may not know initially, but it was a part of her destiny. And so Mordecai got this revelation and was showing it to Esther. He said to her, "Who knows if you were brought to the palace for such a time as this? Because mind you, there was once a queen in the palace. She was Vashti. But Vashti was removed out of her place because of insubordination. And Esther was one of the women who won the king's favor. She was the only woman that won the king's favor, and so she was selected to be queen. Esther now, in this time, has to make a decision. She told everybody to go and fast, and everybody fasted, and she went before the king. Her life was spared, and the life of her brethren were spared. Now, if Esther's disobedience had took place, it would have been detrimental for the Jews. So you have to know that when you're in a place of purpose, it is very important to be obedient, because your obedience is depended upon by others. Your obedience is not about you only, but there are others who are waiting for your obedience. So if Esther had not gone to the king, it would have been detrimental for the Jews. So, part of purpose and reaching your destiny is listening to the voice of God, knowing the voice of God, and being obedient to the voice of God. Know your place and know how you serve and how you will serve for God to glorify Himself through you. You have to be obedient to the word of God. You were born for this time. Your parents, your grandparents were born for the time that they lived in. But you, in your current generation, you were born for this time. And God is calling many of us to stand up and manifest the gifts and talents that we have. We are called for various ministries and purposes. Some of us may know them, some of us might not know it, and some of us are still trying to discover what our purpose is. But whatever it is, just know that you were born for a particular time to serve a particular purpose. And it is important that we answer to that call. It is important that we be obedient to the voice of God. It is important that we even go through the preparation process that Esther went through. Everybody's preparation process may be different. Yours may take a long time, somebody else may take a short while, depending on the assignment that you have been given. Some persons may take a month, some persons may take years, or some persons may be days. But whatever the assignment was, just remember that you have to go through a preparation process, and sometimes that preparation process is not easy, because sometimes we are taught some lessons through struggles, hard times, and difficulties. But note that these are valuable lessons for us to learn and to experience. So while you're going through, just remember it is a part of your preparation. And this preparation will one day become a testimony of others, of how you have helped them to get out of their struggles, of how you have helped them to reach their purpose. Because even if you have reached to the place of your destiny, your job is also to help others to reach to their place of destiny. And that means you're going to create leaders. You're going to create others to go spread their wings, light the world. Wherever they are planted, wherever you are planted, you are to flourish in that area. You are to keep your light shining and burning in that area so that others may see it. Because others are depending on your gifts. There are persons depending on your talents to serve them and to guide them into reaching their purpose. These are times where the children of God are required to open up their ears, open up their hearts, and answer to the call of God in their lives. So just as how you have seen how Esther has managed to deliver her people out of the hands of Haman, in the end, Haman was hanged because he made a gallows to hang Mordecai on. But he was hung on the very gallows that he prepared for the Jews. And so God will take care of your enemies. And this is just a perfect demonstration of purpose being displayed in the lives of people. You may not be Esther, but it is a perfect example of how Esther had to push aside fear, had to push aside her own selfish ambitions, and not think about herself, but think about a whole generation, a whole population that needs to survive, that needs to go forward. And you could be the one between death and life, between someone. You may be the one preserving the life of someone. And so I am here to tell you that you should be like an Esther. Take an attribute from this. Be the one to help preserve life. Be the one to help preserve life. That's what we're here about on Nurse as Midwife. We're here to help you, to birth you into your purpose, and so that you can birth others into their purpose. Iron sharpeneth iron, and we're here to serve each other so that God may get the glory from your life, from your purpose. It may not be easy getting there, but God must get his glory. And God will provide the help and the escape that you need. If you think that it is something hard to do, God will find a way of escape for you. Look how God find an escape for Esther. She thought the king would have killed her because she was not called before the king. But God provided a way of escape for her. God spared her life so that she could spare the life of her people. Your story may not be exactly as it is with Esther, but know this, that the move that you make, heaven is cheering you on. The step that you taking the first step is important. Know that heaven is cheering you on and that you will reach your destiny only if you make a move. You have to make a move. You have to take action. So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about Esther and how she reached her purpose and her destiny, and how it was relevant in delivering her people. And what is God calling you to do? What is God calling you to deliver someone from? Someone may be out there waiting on you to make the first step. Someone may be out there waiting on you to give them a call, to text them, to give them an encouraging word. So take this Esther's story as a stepping stone to push fear aside, be brave, and walk in your purpose, because you were born for such a time as this. Join me again next time where we spread our wings, birthing purpose. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Until next time.